Ship drifted backward. Alone. Unmoored. It would return. It always did. But for now, it was memory on water. And the passengers? They didn't look back. They simply walked into a place that had waited for them without ever knowing their names. The tower stood crooked at the edge of the village. Its stones faded. Its bell rusted. But its clock still ticked. Not forward. Back. No one remembered when it started. At first, they thought it broken. Then cursed. Then sacred. Each day, the hour hand turned counterwise. Each second unwound. But life went on. Children grew. Leaves fell. Snow came. Only the tower refused to forget. One girl watched it every morning. Counted the ticks backward. Felt something settle inside her. As time curled inward. Like a secret, she asked her grandmother once, "What happens when it reaches the beginning?" The old woman only smiled. Then the promise must be kept. The girl didn't ask what promise. She already knew, even if she didn't yet remember. The stairs creaked. Beneath her small feet, dust rose with every step. Not disturbed. Welcomed. She passed windows shuttered in shadow. Walls carved with old names. The higher she climbed, the quieter it became. Not stillness. Holding. At the top, the clock room. Gears groaned slowly. Thick wheels turned, but in reverse. The pendulum swayed. Left, right, left, but always reaching. Back. In the center stood a cabinet. Locked. Untouched. She knelt, placed her hand on its wooden surface. It warmed and clicked. The door swung open. Inside, a scroll, sealed with wax. Unbroken. The wax bore a single mark. A spiral. She didn't open it. She simply remembered it. Because her grandmother was right. This was not a mystery. It was a promise. One made before she was born, and nearly ready to be fulfilled. She sat cross-legged beside the gears. The scroll unopened. The air full of ticking. Backward. Steady. She closed her eyes. And the tower remembered. Not in sound. In feeling. A boy. Years ago. Or years ahead. He stood where she sat now. Holding the same scroll. Tears in his eyes. He made the promise. If I forget her, let time bring me back. He sealed the scroll. Placed it in the cabinet. Left the tower. And the clock? It began to count backwards. Not to reverse history. To return him. To the moment before forgetting. She opened her eyes. The scroll pulsed gently. Waiting. Not for reading. For returning. And she understood. She wasn't just the keeper of the promise. She was who it was made for. Her fingers hovered. Over the wax. It was soft. Warmed by memory. Not flame. She pressed. It cracked. Not loud. Like breath releasing. The scroll unfurled itself. Inside, no words. Just two fingerprints. One small, one older, and below them, a single line, etched faintly. Return me to the moment I first remembered her. She didn't cry. She didn't smile. She simply felt. The tower exhaled. The clock slowed. Then paused. Then, for the first time in decades, it ticked forward. One soft click. Then another. Time resumed. Not as it was. As it had waited to be. She stood. Descended slowly. Outside, the bells rang once. Clear. Bright. A promise kept. And a memory. Restored. The ground was dry. Cracked. Colorless. Tired. No farmer touched it. No tools cut it. No birds circled above. It was a place meant for forgetting. But one morning, a sprout. Thin. Curled. Green as breath. No one saw it at first. No one watered it. It rose through dust. Pushed past stone. A second shoot followed. Then a third. Not clustered. Spaced. Deliberate. As if something beneath the earth knew exactly where to place them. Children noticed first. They whispered, "The ground is dreaming." Elders watched in silence and said nothing, because long ago, before they stopped planting, they had buried something deeper. And seed, the girl stepped barefoot into the field. Dry earth cracked gently beneath her, but the sprouts bowed softly as she passed. She didn't know the song, not in words, but her body remembered. Her grandmother once came here with no seeds, no basket, just her voice. Each afternoon, she'd sit and hum, eyes closed, palms pressed to soil. "The earth hears better when you're not looking," she used to say. Now, as the girl walked, the wind changed. It didn't whistle. It hummed. Low, circular, familiar. She closed her eyes, listened, and heard a melody with no lyrics, no source, except the soil. The earth wasn't just growing. It was singing back. She followed the hum, not with her feet, with her breath. Each note deeper, older. She reached a hollow near the center. Not dug, not shaped, just formed. She knelt, brushed aside the dust, and found stones, stacked in a circle. Small, smooth. At the center, cloth. Faded, wrapped tightly. She touched it. Warm, not from sun, from memory. Inside, folded gently, were strands of gray hair, dried petals, and a scrap of paper, nearly worn to nothing. She didn't unfold it. She didn't need to, because the earth already had. The song rose louder. Sprouts swayed. Leaves quivered, not from wind, from recognition. What had been buried was not grief, not goodbye, but reminder, a garden made from memory. She stood. Around her, sprouts thickened, leaves widened, petals curled open. No rain had fallen, no hands had planted, and yet, green, everywhere, not wild, not tamed, just true. Colors rose like breath, blue from songs unsung, yellow from names whispered before sleep, soft reds from promises never broken. The air grew heavy, with scent and warmth. Not perfume, presence. Others came, silent, barefoot. They did not speak. They walked the paths, between blossoms, and remembered, not just their own pasts, but the gardens, because the earth had waited, not for tools, not for tending, for memory, for someone, to listen long enough for it to grow again. The desert stretched wide, into the space, endless breath, but one dune rippled differently. It curved not like wind, but like a roof. Then one morning, a crack, thin, silent, barely seen. A traveler passed, drawn by nothing. She paused, touched the sand. It was warmer here, and beneath her fingers, stone, not broken, not buried, waiting. She dug, slowly, not with haste, with reverence. The sand shifted like sleep pulling back its blanket. A window emerged, still glassed, still whole. She looked inside. Darkness, and a staircase, spiraling downward. The city had not vanished. It had chosen to rest. And now, it remembered her. The stairs curved downward, stone cool beneath her feet. No dust, no dica, only quiet, alive quiet. Each step echoed, like it was being remembered, not made. The walls bore carvings, not of kings or battles, but of stillness. Closed eyes, folded hands, a city painted in sleep. She reached the bottom. Hallways stretched in every direction. Lamps unlit, doors closed, but nothing broken. She touched the wall. It hummed, low, steady, as if the whole place was breathing. Slow and ancient. This wasn't a ruin. It was a pause. The city had not been forgotten. It had been keeping itself, like a secret, like a lullaby, waiting for someone to wake it gently. Her footsteps made no sound, not because the floor was soft, because the air was listening. She turned a corner, found a well, dry but clean, a market square, empty but swept. Chairs rested around a fountain that hadn't flowed in centuries, yet held no dust. It was as if the city had stood up once, looked around, and lay back down, without disturbance. She pressed her ear to a door. Inside, nothing moved, yet she felt, watched, not by fear, by memory. Something here knew her, not from sight, from rhythm, her breath, her pace, her presence. She placed a hand on the stone. It pulsed once, a soft vibration, like fingers brushing fingers in a dream. We are still here, it seemed to whisper, and we remember. She sat in the center of the square, cross-legged, still, no map, no lantern, no questions, just breath. And slowly, the silence shifted, not broken, opened. A faint breeze passed through the hallways. She mishung, not from wind, but from memory. She saw shadows move, not ghosts, impressions. A woman carrying bread, a child chasing a wooden wheel, a man resting his forehead against a doorway. Not haunting, remembering. They weren't calling for help. They weren't trapped. They were held by the city, by the silence, by time folded like cloth around them. The traveler smiled. She didn't come to wake them. She came to sit beside them, to keep the quiet company. And, for the first time in centuries, the city exhaled. The lake was still. No birds above. No fish below. Only water, deep and silent. Beneath it, a village, long drowned, long dismissed, but not forgotten. Children on the shore whispered of a book, not hidden, submerged. Its pages never torn. Its ink never blurred. It said if you looked into the water, on the stillest nights, you could see it open and write, not with hands, with ripples. A girl came alone. No lantern, no net, only a question. She sat on the pier, let her feet dangle, watched the surface until it stopped noticing her. And then, lines began to appear, not on the water, under it. Not words she knew, but ones that knew her. She leaned forward, fingers skimming the lake skin. Cool, still. Then, a flicker, not a fish, a form. Pages turning, slowly, as if underwater breath could move parchment. She reached down, not to grab, to greet. The water parted. No splash, no ripple. Beneath her hand, the book rose, not floating, not sinking, just being. Its cover soft as moss, its corners glowing faint blue. One page turned, blank. Then, a line appeared. No pen, no pressure, just ink, coalescing, like memory rising through stillness. A single curve, then another. Not her name as others knew it, but her name as the lake remembered it. A name without sound, only meaning, only return. She whispered nothing. The book heard everything. The pages turned on their own, each one clearer, then water itself. She saw drawings, not sharp, soft like breath pressed in a cloth. A tower beneath a wave, a face carved in sand, a child lighting a candle that never melted. Each story glowed, then faded, not forgotten, past. She leaned closer, and one page paused, half-written, unfinished. A single figure on a shore, alone, watching, no ending, no next line. She waited. Nothing came. Then, a ripple, from her chest, to her hand, to the book, and the ink responded. It didn't write what she thought. It wrote what she carried. The ache, the wonder, the moment she first asked if stories could breathe underwater. And there it was, the next line, not written by her, written through her. She closed her eyes. The book hovered beneath her palms, still glowing, still warm, not asking to be kept, just witnessed. She lifted it slightly, then lowered it back, into the water. It didn't fall. It returned, settling beneath the surface. Like a breath let go. The words stayed, not on pages, in current, in motion, in her. She opened her hand. Tiny shapes of ink floated to her fingertips, curved, ancient, gentle. They left no stain, only memory. The water stilled, the light faded, and she stood, not holding the story, held by it. She walked from the lake, without looking back, because she knew now, stories written in water aren't lost. They're waiting for someone, quiet enough, to finish them. It stood alone, at the edge of the plain. No city behind it, no road before it, no sign beside it. Just stone, tall, smooth, silent. Travelers passed. Some touched it, most didn't. But those who did, lingered. A woman once pressed her palm to it, closed her eyes. She left smiling, though she never spoke why. A boy leaned his forehead against it, cried, laughed, ran home wordless. The wall never moved, never changed, but its surface was warm. Always, even at night. People came to call it the listening wall, though it never made a sound. It didn't need to, because it remembered every hand that had ever asked. Without speaking, she said nothing as she approached, not out of fear, out of knowing. The wall didn't need voices. It needed presence. She removed her gloves, stepped barefoot onto the dry ground. The wind held still. She placed both hands against the stone. It was warm, not from sun, from something deeper, older. Then, a breath, not hers, not wind, from the wall. It didn't move, but something inside it shifted, like a room opening, like a chest unlocking. Her shoulders relaxed. Her heart slowed. Images flickered behind her eyes. Not visions, reminders. The way her mother braided her hair. The taste of cold water from clay cups. A promise she made and forgot. Until now, the wall wasn't telling her anything new. It was giving her back what she had buried, too deeply to carry. She pressed her forehead, gently, against the stone. No sound, no light, no sibir, just stillness. Not empty, full. Her thoughts began to quiet, not fade, settle. The wall didn't take her pain. It held it. For a moment, without judgment, memories surfaced, not a haunt, but to breathe. A long-forgotten lullaby. A doorway she never stepped through. A letter she never sent. She didn't cry. She didn't smile. She simply existed. With a wall. With her past. With something older than grief. And softer than time. And in that hush, she realized the wall had never spoken, but it had always answered. Not with truth, with space. Room. To remember. She opened her eyes. No bichins. No simbes. Just stone. Still listening. She let her hands fall, fingers tingling, like they held something too long, and finally let go. She didn't thank the wall. She didn't need to. It hadn't done anything, except be there. She stepped back. The wind returned. Light shifted, and the wall, unchanged, but something had shifted. In her, she turned to go, left no mark, no karabing, no name. The wall didn't need names, only presence. It would wait for the next one. Another hand, another breath, another silence, ready to be heard. The field stretched far, wide as sky, soft as breath. No trail, no tracks, just grass, unbroken, untouched. People said there was a path here, one their ancestors walked, but no one could point it out. Maps failed. Footprints vanished. Even birds flew over without pause. So they stopped looking. All except one. A boy. Quiet. Barefoot. He came each day. Stood still. Listened. Not to the wind. To the space beneath it. And one morning, he stepped forward. Nothing changed. No flash. No thunder. But behind him, the grass leaned. Just slightly. A line. Thin as breath. Not burned. Not cut. Just made. Because the path was never waiting to be found. It was waiting to follow him. He returned the next day. And the next. Each time, a little farther. His pace never rushed. His gaze never lowered. He didn't force the field. He asked it, and the grass responded. Bent gently. Not broken. Just nudged. At first, no one noticed. Then a child did. She pointed. Why is the wind following him? Because it was. The breeze curved where he walked, like air remembering an old tune. A woman came, stood at the edge, watched. She didn't see a path. She felt one, a calm that followed his shoulders, a hush that gathered in his wake. No footprints, no dust, just presence, just choice. And slowly, others began to gather, not to walk behind him, to remember. How to begin? A man stepped forward, not behind the boy, beside him, in another direction. Nothing changed. At first. Then, the grass shifted, not an imitation, an invitation. A woman followed, stepping diagonally, eyes closed, arms loose. A third wandered in wide curves, tracing memories he hadn't lived yet. The field didn't resist. It opened. Not carved trails, not fixed roads. Passages, like threads, woven loosely, through fabric. Each path unique, none overlapping, yet all part of the same movement. The field began to hum. Lo, content. It had waited long, to be remembered, by footsteps that asked instead of demanded. And now, it listened, with every blade of grass. He paused. For the first time, he looked back, and what he saw wasn't a path. It was many, lines so soft, they shimmered. Not trails, but threads. Some curved like questions. Some darted like laughter. Some paused midway and turned back around. But none were wrong. None erased the others. They belonged. He smiled, not because he had led, but because he had trusted. The field had never needed a trail. It needed someone brave enough to step without knowing where. And now, there were dozens, hundreds, walking, resting, wandering, and the field, no longer empty, but full of choice, of story, of paths that weren't there yesterday and wouldn't wait for tomorrow. Only now. The canyon was wide, sharp-edged. Still, birds flew high above, but made no sound. Wind passed through, but carried no whisper. Silence wasn't just present. It ruled, but deep within the gorge. A single note hung, thin, endless, not fading. An echo, not one that followed, one that led. It looped, curved, returned to itself. People avoided the canyon. They said it stole voices. But one man came, with no intention to speak. He stood at the edge, listened, and the echo paused, only for a breath. But it paused, as if surprised, to finally be heard. He took one step, then another. The stone didn't echo his feet. It echoed his breath. Inhale, the walls pulsed. Exhale, a soft tone followed. Not mimicry, recognition. The man said nothing. Still the canyon replied. Each step he took, the echo changed. A little higher, a little slower, as if adjusting, to match the rhythm of his heartbeat. He reached the center. A hush gathered, not empty, full of waiting. Then He hummed. One low, open note. The echo answered. Not back to him. With him. 2 notes now. Together. Then 3. A harmony. Unwritten. Unrehearsed. It had waited ages. Not for noise, but for someone to listen before speaking. He stood still. The notes faded, but not the feeling. The canyon hummed softly, not with stone's hardness, but with something warmer. His eyes scanned the walls. Not cracks, not shadows. Life. Tiny roots pressed through crevices. Moss glowed faintly, and beneath his feet, soil, soft and breathing. The echo wasn't just sound. It was memory in motion, a pulse older than the canyon itself. He knelt, placed a hand on the earth. The ground thrummed, a rhythm shared. He smiled. This was not silence. It was waiting. For him. For someone who would listen. Not just with ears, but with heart. He breathed deep. The canyon held his breath. Not loosely, but tightly. His voice rose. Not as words, but as feeling. A tone pure and clear. The echo answered. Not repeated, but woven. They danced together. Sound and silence. Old and new. The canyon sang. Not in chorus, but in conversation. A song without beginning. A song without end. He closed his eyes, and in that moment became the echo. Not lost, not alone, but part of the ancient voice, waiting to be heard. The forest was thick. Branches tangled like questions. Leaves whispered secrets. In the dark, the path was gone, swallowed by roots and shadow. But a faint glow moved through the trees. Not from torch, not from fire. A lantern, soft, steady, not held, but following. A woman walked behind it, barefoot, no torch, no map. She didn't look at the light. She felt it. With every step, the glow pulsed. Not ahead, not behind. Beside her, it knew the way, even when she did not. The light didn't chase shadows. It softened them. Branches no longer grabbed. Leaves no longer whispered secrets. They sang. She stepped closer to a fallen log. The lantern's glow pooled there. Not wood, not moss. Footprints. Faint, soft, like they had never left. She knelt, traced the prints. Not with fingers, with breath. Images flickered. Not her own. A child running. A man carrying a bundle. A woman pausing to look back. They weren't ghosts. They were memories. Frozen in light. The lantern didn't reveal the path. It revealed the walkers. The glow flickered softly. Not leading. Not pushing. Just waiting. She stepped lightly. No hurry. No fear. Around her, the forest leaned in. Not to trap, to listen. The air thickened, not with sound, but with meaning. Leaves shimmered with memories. Branches bent like bows. Stones hummed beneath her feet. The lantern pulsed, a rhythm, old as roots, deep as earth. She closed her eyes, and the story unfolded, not in words, but in feeling. A journey once taken, a promise never broken. A path still waiting. And she knew this was not just a forest. It was a memory, waiting to be remembered. She entered the clearing. Soft moss beneath bare feet. The lantern's glow spread wide. Not harsh, gentle. At the center stood an ancient tree. Roots thick embracing the earth. Branches reaching, not for sky, but for something unseen. Carved into its bark. Symbols, names, promises. She touched one. The lantern pulsed. Not a light, a heartbeat. Around her, the forest held its breath. And in that silence, she understood. The light was never about finding a path.